Good morning. Welcome to our gathering today at First Unitarian Universalist Church of Stockton. This is our 10th virtual service, and we know many of you have joined us for others of these services and hope you will keep joining us and that you will find here what you are seeking. We are a community of individuals holding many different beliefs, coming from many different places, and each progressing on our own journeys of life and faith. We join together in our commitment to care for humanity and to shape a better, healthier, more hopeful world. We promise to accept and encourage all those persons of goodwill who gather with us, recognizing that we all continue to grow and learn throughout our lifetimes. We especially welcome and stand with LGBTQ persons, even as we seek to welcome all persons of every age, ability, status, and shade of skin. We strive to make our community a place of peace and acceptance, love and nurture, even as we challenge ourselves and others to live more faithfully according to the values of Unitarian Universalism. Now hear our prelude by Bhakti Chan.
These are the opening words for Sunday. They're by Sobonfu Some. Community is the spirit, the guiding light of the tribe, whereby people come together in order to fulfill a specific purpose, to help others fulfill their purpose, and to take care of one another. Chalice lighting words. As we gather again in spirit, we light our chalice to celebrate our community. From our places of refuge, we take this time to join together again as community, remembering the times we shared in person and hoping that we will soon link our hands and hearts again.
Here we have gathered side by side, circle of kinship, come and step inside. May all who seek it find a kindly word. May all who speak it feel they have been heard. Sing now together this our heart's own song. Here we have gathered, called to celebrate days of our lifetime, matter small and great. We of all ages, women, children, men, infants and sages, sharing what we can. Sing now together this our heart's own song. Life has its battles, sorrows and regret. But in the shadows, let us not forget. We who now gather know each other's pain. Kindness can heal us, as we give we gain. Sing now in friendship this our heart's own song.
Words of affirmation. We believe in love. Love is the only doctrine of our church. We believe in truth. The quest for truth is our sacrament. We believe in helping others, and service is our prayer. We believe in the sacredness of life, to dwell together in peace, seek knowledge and freedom, serve humanity in fellowship, and cherish the earth and its creatures. This do we covenant, each with the other.
From a place of isolation to a blending of our hearts, from a cold and empty echo swells a song of many parts. Celebrate the joy of holding those we love and cherish. Celebrate the joy of holding those we love and cherish. There's a pleasure in aloneness that is precious for a while, but when beauty calls for sharing, then we crave a friend's warm smile. Celebrate the joy of holding those we love and cherish. Celebrate the joy of holding those we love and cherish. Strength can come from our own doing. Learn we courage when we're pressed. Yet what splendid strength and courage in community is blessed. Celebrate the joy of holding those we love and cherish. Celebrate the joy of holding those we love and cherish.
Good morning. Today I'm going to read a story written by the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama is the spiritual leader of a religion called Buddhism. Buddhism is one of the world religions that inspires and informs our own religion, Unitarian Universalism. We share many ideas and values with Buddhism, especially the idea of love and compassion for all. The Seed of Compassion, Lessons from the Life and Teachings of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. I have had the opportunity to travel to many countries during which I have met and spoken to many children. As I won't have the opportunity to personally meet all of the children of the world, it brings me great joy to share this story with you, my young brothers and sisters. In this book, I recount memories of my childhood and share lessons I learned from my mother and others who have helped me cultivate the seed of compassion that we all possess. I hope this story will help that seed flourish within each of you and contribute to a more compassionate world with a sense of oneness and humanity. I was born in Stockton, the Amdo province of northeastern Tibet. It was a place of tall mountains, clear streams, blue skies, and many animals: mastiffs, sheep, horse, yaks, scorpions, chickens, and cows. Our home was in the shadow of the Ami Chiri, the mountain that pierces the sky. Mine was a family of farmers. My father would spend the day tending to and selling horses, and I would stay home with my mother and help her with daily work. We would plant barley, buckwheat, and potatoes, but those were not the only seeds we planted. From the time I was very young, my mother planted in me the seed of compassion by the example she set. She raised me on a diet of love. It was often my job to collect the eggs from our hens. I took my duty very seriously. While my mother cooked, the aroma of kori, a delicious bread, wafting from our kitchen, I would play in the courtyard with scorpions for company. Sometimes I would sit on the roof of our house. It was the perfect place to watch the mountains reach toward the sky. I'd imagine what the older boys were doing as they accompanied their fathers herding. I couldn't wait to be big enough to do that. My other favorite perch was atop my mother's shoulders. From there, I felt like one of the older boys. I was taller than my father, and getting around was so easy. When I wanted to go left, I would simply tug on my mother's left ear. When I wanted to go right, I would give her right ear a pull. And if she didn't understand my instructions or chose to ignore them, I would kick my legs. Although my mother could not teach me to read or write, I learned so much from her. I was often a naughty boy, but she always treated me with kindness. Sometimes I think she may have been a little too patient with me. I was a bit spoiled. But that was her nature. She was this way with everyone around her. One year, when there was a famine in our region and many families did not have enough to eat, my mother gave whatever food we had stored to our neighbors and those in need. In this way, she tended the seed of that most important lesson by demonstrating how to practice compassion. She showed me as a child that it was possible to treat all people with warm-heartedness and to help ease their suffering. Like a tall tree never forgets the seed it sprouted from, I've often returned to the seed of compassion my mother planted, and which I carried with me as a small child at home, as a young monk in training, and today as I spread the message of compassion around the world. I loved growing up under the big open sky in Stockton, but I always knew that my life would take me beyond my small village. When I was almost 3, some monks came from the capital, Lhasa, looking for the child who was the reincarnation of the Dalai Lama, the spiritual leader of the Tibetan Buddhists. They had been searching all over the country for him, and the millions of people of Tibet had been waiting to hear that he had been found. No one in my family could have expected that I was that child, least of all me. But after passing a series of tests where I correctly identified the belongings of the previous Dalai Lama and held them with a great sense of familiarity, our visitors were satisfied that they had found the boy they were looking for. And so, at age 4, I made the journey to Lhasa in a caravan that snaked through the mountains. It took 3 months, and as news spread that the new Dalai Lama had been found, more and more people joined the procession. I rode in a beautiful palanquin with my brother. We were rambunctious boys, and every time we roughhoused inside the cozy cabin, we would knock it off balance. We had to be separated for the rest of the journey. In Lhasa, after I turned 6, my formal education began and my days were filled with studies. In the few hours I had for personal time, I loved to puzzle over how things worked. I could spend hours taking apart toys, clocks, and watches and putting them back together again, or exploring the mechanics of movie projectors and cars. This occasionally got me in trouble. As I trained to be a monk, I studied many subjects, like Buddhist philosophy and history, logic and reasoning, metaphysics, poetry, medicine, Tibetan, and Sanskrit. One topic that I loved was compassion, because of the seed that had been planted by my mother. I believe that is what led me to free the people held in the prison next to Patala Palace, where I lived. I have spent my entire life studying this topic, and I know it is my duty to help make the world a more compassionate place. The remarkable thing is, this ability is within every one of us, and it is strongest, I believe, within children like you. Many Buddhist teachings compare those on the journey of life to sprouts, or the young shoots of a plant that must be tended until they grow strong and thrive. Parents often describe their children as sprouts too, especially when they see how quickly they grow. But children are like sprouts, not just physically, but in how they contain potential that can be nourished. The seed of compassion is within every child. It is there from birth and is a part of our nature, and it flourishes because of love. If you think about it, when it comes to the 5 basic senses, we humans are not all that impressive. The elephant has a long nose and can pick up faint scents from much greater distances than we can. The hare can turn his tall ears forward and backward to pick up sounds that we would miss. The eagle has eyes that can spot the tiniest prey from far up in the sky. It's not the use of our senses that makes us special. But only humans have the ability, with discipline and effort, to train the mind. It is what makes us different from all other animals. It is our superpower, and it is where the seed of compassion thrives. Think about this. When you are playing in the schoolyard and a group welcomes you with a smile, do you want to play with them? Or do you want to play with someone who greets you with a scowl? Of course you want to play with someone who welcomes you with a genuine smile, as you already have the ability to see genuine compassion in others. From self-confidence grows compassion, and from compassion strength blooms. But so often our world puts importance on material things and pushes us to be competitive with the people around us. The material world is based only in the 5 basic senses. Compassion is based in the mind, the part of us that is uniquely human. It is where you might grow strongest and how you can create something positive in the world. Because compassion is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of strength. When you approach someone with true warm-heartedness, they can feel it. Doing so only brings more joy to you and them. There are many simple ways to bring more happiness to the world. But you already know that. What you must do now is protect and nurture this seed. When someone disagrees with you, rather than think they are mistaken, you must ask, why might they feel this way? When someone is scowling or upset or hurt, you could busy yourself with your own concerns, or you could ask, what might I do to help them? These questions may not come immediately, but just as you gradually learn to read or swim or play an instrument, you can build compassion day by day. It takes practice, and even when you slip and don't make the compassionate choice, tomorrow presents the opportunity for you to try again. I have many responsibilities in my life, but helping to make the world a more compassionate place is the most important one. We cannot change the past, we can only learn from it. Otherwise, it is beyond our control. But the future we can change. And as children, you already have the tools needed to build a happier world, a better world, a compassionate world.
At this time in our service, we share milestones in our lives by lighting candles of joy and concern. I've been asked to light a number of candles. We got word that Mary Lois Thompson took a fall and has had a hip replacement, and she is recovering at Meadowood. Emily Hance, a former member, now in Oregon, lost vision in one eye, and so her driving is currently limited. But she feels she has the continuing mission to bring light into Trump country where she lives. Please give her energy and strength to do just that. Light a couple of these candles for Emily and for Mary Lois. And also got word that Christy Kelly's daughter had a baby boy. And so we want to send her blessings. I believe she's also up in Oregon. And Signe Hickey is undergoing some procedures to prepare for serious hiatal hernia repair. So we send her some good energy. And a couple of friends of members, Margaret Certain, who's a church neighbor and a longtime teacher in town, died at 55 this past Sunday from unknown causes. So particularly all the teachers are sending good energy, but we also add that to her family and her co-workers. And another friend, Signe's friend, Joseph Artiegu, has colon cancer and is needing some good support and energy as he goes through that process. And I'm going to light one more for all those other things that have gone unspoken. And I hope that there are at least as many joys as there are sorrows and concerns. I invite us into a time of silent thought, prayer, and meditation. People that are part of this congregation and those others who are parts of our lives, we celebrate with them the joys and are with them also in the sorrows that come into their awareness. We send good energy as much as we can to all those, both those celebrating and those who have concerns. There's so many things going on in the world, so many worries about the COVID-19 virus and its spread and what it's doing to the way things normally are. Questions about whether we'll be able to go back to normal. Sadness that we cannot be together, and the uncertainty of when we will be able to come back together. So many things weigh on our hearts and in our minds. I invite us to remember the ways that this congregation gives opportunities for us to be real, to share from our hearts both the sorrows and joys that are part of our lives, the opportunities that we have to be together. May we soon come back where we can hug us or at least share some fist and elbow bumps to support each other, to give strength to each other, to be the community we want to be. May all this happen soon. So may it be. Amen. The next reading is from Lifting Our Voices, number 192, by Robert R. Walsh. When the great plates slip and the earth shivers and the flaw is seen to lie in what you trusted most, look not to more solidity, to weighty slabs of concrete poured, or strength of cantilevered beam to save the fractured order. Trust more the tensile strands of love that bend and stretch to hold you in the web of life that's often torn, but always healing. The shifting plates, the restive earth, your room, your precious life, they all proceed from love, the ground on which we walk together. At this time, we usually share our gifts and offerings. If you have pledges to send in or wish to make contributions to support the work of this congregation, please send them to our church office at 2737 Pacific Avenue, Stockton, California, 95204. Distance learning, distance church. Had we been able to gather this week, we would have celebrated our annual Religious Education Sunday, during which we honor the achievements of youth aging out of high school and youth programs, moving between middle school and high school, the movement of children into the next grades and schools, also that we generally announce the winner of the Green Scholarship. We hope to do all those things later this year, but it started me thinking about models for virtual church and the progress that has been made in distance learning in higher education. And of course, the ways that virtual education is being conducted now in this COVID-19 world in which we live. Every center for education and every church has had to make some decisions about how to reach students and parishioners during this quarantine. And of course, we've not made all the same choices. We've used different technologies and different techniques. At some point in the future, we will probably debate the good or bad points of those choices, but I want to think with you today a bit about the ideas of distance learning and virtual church in a more general way. Until the quarantine started, most of us had probably not thought about attending virtual church services on any regular kind of basis, though some church services have been available on radio or TV for decades. Most evangelical churches and some more moderate and progressive ones have recorded their services and made them available to anyone who wants to watch or listen. Several UU congregations have been recording or broadcasting services for quite some time, and the largest UU church of any is the Church of the Larger Fellowship, which doesn't even have a physical presence. That this new reality is causing us to rethink how we do church is a serious understatement. At this point, we don't really know when we can gather again in person safely and what changes we will have to make in order to come together again. Distance learning in educational settings has been around for several years, mostly as an alternative aimed at creating opportunities for non-traditional learners. The idea of moving all of a college's classes online is a startling break with tradition. But under the circumstances, many universities and colleges here in California and elsewhere are either considering going all online or have already announced that at least next fall's semester will have pretty much all online classes. Seems to me that distance learning and virtual church share at least one common drawback: limited contact between students and parishioners. Skype and FaceTime and Zoom and other resources have created ways for us to at least see each other while communicating, but there are limits to how we can interact in such virtual realities, such virtual apps. We can't get all the visual clues we're used to, nor can we touch each other or receive the pheromones that give us clues about relationships. It's a lot better than relying just on letters or even phone calls, but it is still limited, and it's easy for misunderstandings to arise. Even though we aren't all extroverts, it's often said that we are social animals. There's a wide range of how much social contact we may want or need, but we do need to be in contact with each other, and not merely in 2 dimensions with sound. We humans really do need to have contact with each other a good bit of the time, especially for those of us living alone. We need contact with others to keep ourselves sane. We're not so different from the elephants or polar bears in the zoo that get a little crazy by themselves. We really do need each other. In distance learning environments, there are often shared projects involving other virtual gatherings beyond the main class lectures. Smaller groups help to increase the level of engagement and the number of interactions, whether they be actual or virtual. Through various Zoom meetings, we are also offering opportunities for more engagement and interaction within the church. Some groups are getting quite familiar with Zoom meetings, though I haven't heard anyone tell me it's better than meeting in person. Such technologies have been used for some time to cut down on the costs of meeting in person, but adapting them for church use remains a challenge. Virtual gatherings are much better than not meeting and not connecting, but sometimes I get Zoom-exhausted. I suppose I had some advantage in knowing about Zoom meetings since I've been Zooming with the UU Justice Ministry of California Board and the Pacific Central District Board over the last year or two. But now I am Zooming for cluster meetings, interfaith meetings, our board meetings, RE and youth meetings, men's group, and sometimes other meetings as well. Not dressing up for meetings is nice, but I really do get Zoom-exhausted after 2 or 3 meetings in a day, much more so than in-person meetings. On Wednesday, I was Zooming, meeting with a few fellow clergy from the Stockton area interfaith network, and we spent some time wondering how different things were going to need to be when we reopen for in-person worship and events. Will we be able to have coffee hour? And if so, how? How many chairs will we need to remove from the sanctuary? Will the choir and the congregation be able to sing? What will we have to do to be safe? The decision to reopen is going to take some serious consideration. As we reach our 10th week of virtual church, we are getting more comfortable with this process, but I think we are all missing each other's company. I hope the vaccines will be tested and perfected soon, along with tests to see whether we have antibodies and whether the antibodies really will provide any protection against reinfection. This really wasn't how I envisioned this year going. We had hints about the risk of pandemic by the beginning of the calendar year, but we were well into what appeared to be a mostly normal church year by then. The pandemic and this quarantine were not even visible on the edges of the lists of what might go wrong this year. Hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, droughts, and earthquakes were all much higher on the list of possible problems. Surprise! We moved to virtual services with only a couple of days' notice back in March, and here we still are. What a strange year. What a strange world. I hear people talking on the news and on the streets about getting back to normal. But is normal really a possibility again? I imagine we will eventually go back to many practices of times before COVID-19, but will we ever feel so free to interact with each other again? Will hugs be given without wondering about the risk? Will lovers dare to kiss without being tested? Will there be concerts and sports events with people packed together by the tens of thousands? There were many downsides to the most recent normal times: ecological concerns, political concerns, healthcare concerns, homelessness, massive disparities between wealth and poor, racism, sexism, heterosexism, ableism, battles against immigrants and Muslims, and any number of other disturbing matters. The air is clearer now. Blue skies. Nearby neighbors may be meeting for the first times, but many societal problems have been exacerbated by the pandemic, and few will be solved without open forums for discussion and opportunities to learn from others. Whether those can happen in this virtual world, I'm not sure. It's far more comfortable to gather with people we know in places and even Zoom meetings where we feel safe than it is to stretch to first meet with others in either physical or virtual forms that are unfamiliar. Masks and social distancing provide some protection from the spread of the virus, but they also add barriers to communication, limits to getting to know others. We've been accustomed to seeing each other's faces, eyes, mouths, and expressions, to read bodies as much as words. Behaviors developed by humans through the ages are partially blocked by the masks and the distance and the technology, so that we will need to become accustomed to new norms of interaction. We may never go back entirely to the normal lives we knew so well 10 weeks ago. There are other upsides to this new reality. Some of us are exercising more and eating out less, which should result in better health. Those of us with dogs have made our dogs very happy to be around all the time. Cats, of course, may not be so pleased, but it does give us more opportunities to keep an eye on them. Some of us have lived through several of the major disruptions of the 20th century, while others who were born more recently may not have experienced the influences of war and cultural upheavals and other tragedies of our time. This pandemic, for many of us, has changed our feeling of safety in the world. For those of us in high-risk categories, especially, we cannot blithely ignore the risks in the same way that many of us have done for so many years. COVID-19 both poses a significant risk in and of itself, but it is also symbolic of other and potentially even more dangerous viruses and other bacteriological agents that may affect our world in the future. With so many people in the world and so many people traveling around the world, the risks of quick transmission of any disease are much higher than they were in earlier times. Though that reality needs to be remembered, it cannot be allowed to stop us from living the fullest and best lives we can. Whatever our new reality looks like, there will be work to do, people to love, and things to learn. Whenever we are able to gather again in person, we will be able to talk about all these things. Even if we can't have coffee hours like we used to, perhaps we can each bring our own coffee and treats and sit 6 feet apart. Until then, let us continue to use these technologies which allow us to connect relatively easily, if imperfectly. May the day soon come when we can at least share our fist and elbow bumps and possibly a few hugs and many quiet words in person. So may it be. Shalom, salam, blessed be, namaste, and amen. Please join now in our closing hymn, which is number 346, Come Sing a Song With Me, although I think one of the verses may be slightly unfamiliar.
Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring when soap is hard to find. And I'll wash my hands with you so we protect humankind.
Now I invite you to virtually join hands to connect with each other as we normally would have done here, but also I invite you to join hands virtually with all those other people that are important to you. May this congregation always be dedicated to the proposition that behind all our differences, beneath all our diversity, there's a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together, in spite of time and death and the space between the stars. We pause in silent witness to that unity. May the blessing of love be upon you. May love's peace abide with you. May love's presence illuminate your hearts now and forevermore. Be safe, be healthy, and hopefully we'll see each other again soon. Amen.